Welcome back to Bills Nation Daily, where we live and breathe Buffalo Bills football every single day. Let's get into it because this one was rough. Everybody's got an opinion right now. Some are pointing at Joe Brady and his play calling, others at Brandon Beane for the talent around Josh Allen. And of course, a good chunk of fans are putting the spotlight directly on the quarterback himself. But like I've said before, and I'll say again, it's never just one thing. Football doesn't work that way. When an offense sputters the way the Bills did, it's a combination of issues all colliding at once. So let's break this thing down, because those 15 failed pass plays, they tell a story. 4 of those came down to nobody being open. That's right, no one. Allen dropped back, went through his reads, and simply had nowhere to throw. 3 others happened because Josh turned down an open receiver. Maybe he didn't trust what he saw. Maybe he wanted a bigger play downfield. But those moments led to incompletions that should have been routine gains. There was one play where he and Khalil Shakir clearly weren't on the same page. That screen to the right where Josh tried to lead him into open space while Shakir stopped his feet. You can see the intention, you can see the opportunity, but the execution just wasn't there. Then we had 2 drops, 2 bad throws, and 3 protection breakdowns where the line simply didn't give Josh the time he needed. What hurts most? Those 2 inaccurate passes from Josh Allen were both aimed at Keon Coleman. And that's tough because Keon has been struggling this season, trying to find rhythm and confidence, but in both of those plays, he actually won his route. He got vertical separation, gave Josh a chance, and both times, the ball wasn't where it needed to be. The first miss went out of bounds, despite Coleman maintaining perfect leverage on his man. The second was underthrown and tipped, and while you'd love for Keon to make a circus catch off the ricochet, it's hard to fault him when the pass didn't give him a real shot. Out of 40 attempts, only 2 balls were truly uncatchable, and both came on deep shots to the guy who desperately needs those reps to go right. That's what makes it sting. Now, Josh's average time to throw in that game was wild. 3.31 seconds. The longest of any quarterback in Week 10 of the season. That number screams no rhythm. You can see him holding onto the ball, double clutching, hesitating. That hesitation comes from one thing: trust. Trust in the protection, trust in the routes, trust in what he's seeing. And right now, it's just not there. Sure, we all loved what he did against Kansas City. That was vintage Josh Allen, decisive, confident, and total command. But when you zoom out, 3 of the last 4 games tell a different story. The passing offense has been clunky, slow to develop, and way too inconsistent. Yes, losing Dalton Kincaid during this game hurt. You could feel his absence immediately. He's one of the few guys who consistently separates, and without him, and still missing Joshua Palmer, the offense lost 2 of its most reliable options. But even with that, the Bills have to find ways to move the ball efficiently through the air. That's what this offense was designed to be, a well-oiled passing machine. Instead, it's been misfiring all over the place. Let's talk about that interception, because after reviewing the tape, it's clear it wasn't just a bad throw. The play was designed for Tyrell Shavers on an in cut. The routes in front of him were supposed to pull coverage away, opening space for Shavers to come across clean. But he got rerouted at the line by Jack Jones, couldn't get free fast enough, and by the time Josh wanted to deliver the ball, the pocket had already collapsed. Miami sent 7 rushers against a 6-man protection. The math just didn't work. Josh had to release it under duress. The route wasn't ready, and the ball ended up intercepted. It wasn't intended for Dawson Knox, as some thought. It was just a broken play from the start. From a schematic standpoint, though, you've got to give Miami's defense credit. Their simulated pressures were outstanding. For those unfamiliar, a simulated pressure is when the defense shows a heavy blitz look. Lots of guys crowding the line, but only 4 actually rush. The tricky part is that it's not always the 4 you expect. Sometimes a linebacker comes and a defensive end drops. Sometimes a safety crashes while a lineman retreats into coverage. It's designed to confuse, and it worked perfectly. The offensive line never knew which bodies were coming, and Josh had to process chaos before every snap. That kind of defensive plan forces mistakes. It makes quarterbacks second-guess reads, shortens internal clocks, and creates unease in the pocket. Miami used it beautifully. They didn't just get physical pressure. they got mental pressure. And that's what threw off Buffalo's timing and rhythm. You could see Allen moving through progressions too quickly or holding onto the ball too long because nothing felt settled. Anthony Weaver, the Dolphins' defensive coordinator, clearly borrowed from that Mike McDonald tree. Guys who love disguises and post-snap movement, and it worked to perfection. But let's not ignore the game script either, because that mattered. The Bills were chasing this one almost the entire time. They fell behind by 16 points early, and once that happens, everything changes. Suddenly, you're playing catch-up. You abandon some of the things that make your offense efficient. Buffalo's play-action rate dropped to 16%. Their screen rate fell to 7%. Those are huge declines. Normally, this team is around 28% play-action and 13% screens. And guess what? They're top 5 in the entire league in yards per play on those concepts. Those are your easy throws. Those are the rhythm builders. Without them, everything became harder. Once Miami forced the Bills into a pure drop-back game, it was open season for those simulated pressures. Josh didn't have the benefit of deceptive play design to slow down the defense. Instead, it was predictable dropbacks, late routes, and heavy traffic in the pocket. That's when the rhythm disappeared completely. You could feel it. The offense was out of sync. No timing, no confidence, no flow. Every drive felt like a grind. All of this goes back to the same truth. It's not just one thing. It's not just the play calling or the quarterback or the receivers or the line. It's the combination of all of it, all hitting at once, that creates this messy version of what's supposed to be an explosive offense. The pieces are there, but the chemistry isn't clicking right now. And before we move on to the run game, it's worth mentioning how much Miami dictated this entire matchup. Their defensive front was disciplined, their second level was aggressive, and their coverage disguises gave Josh fits. Every throw felt contested. Every read felt uncertain. It's hard to build momentum when you're constantly guessing what's real and what's a bluff. So when fans start pointing fingers, whether it's Joe Brady, Brandon Beane, or Josh Allen himself, they're all partially right, but not completely. The truth is layered. The offense lacked rhythm, confidence, and balance. And until the Bills can find that trust again, trust in the system, trust in protection, trust in each other, they're going to keep running into walls like this one. Now, let's turn to the ground game, because if you thought the passing attack was frustrating, the rushing offense might have been even worse. It was, statistically, their least productive game of the entire season. For the first time all year, the Bills didn't even crack the 100-yard mark on the ground. When you look at the running game, it tells the same story as the passing attack, disconnected, hesitant, and totally out of rhythm. This was the first time all season that the Bills didn't reach 100 rushing yards, finishing with just 87 on 22 attempts. That's not just a statistical dip. That's an offense losing its balance. James Cook carried 13 times for 53 yards, and most of those were hard-earned, tough yards that came with almost no daylight. Out of those carries, 8 were gap runs and 5 were zone, a fairly even mix, but neither concept really clicked. Miami's front controlled the line of scrimmage from the opening snap. Joe Brady even said afterward that they ran it too much early, and he's right. The Bills came out trying to be balanced, trying to keep the Dolphins honest, but in doing so they missed a chance to dictate the game through the air when it still mattered. There were windows early where Buffalo could have leaned on play action or spread formations to set the tone, but instead they tried to hammer away on the ground against a defensive front that was fully prepared. Miami stacked the box on over half of Cook's runs, 54% to be exact, and every time you saw Jordan Brooks crashing downhill, closing gaps before they even formed. The Dolphins' linebackers were fast, aggressive, and disciplined, and that combination strangled the run game before it could develop. It's frustrating because this team can run the football when it's in rhythm. We've seen it. When the Bills use tempo and misdirection, Cook becomes dangerous. But in this one, the offense looked predictable. The Dolphins' young defensive linemen, guys like Jordan Phillips and Kenneth Grant, are clearly improving, and they won their one-on-one matchups all afternoon. They sealed the edges, they compressed the middle, and they never allowed Cook to find cutback lanes. That's a big reason why the Bills were constantly stuck behind the chains, facing long second and third downs. There's another layer here that worries me: the divisional familiarity. This was the second time this season Buffalo faced Miami, and that second meeting is always a test. Coaches around the league will tell you that the second divisional game reveals the truth about your team, because by then there are no surprises. The opponent knows your tendencies, they know your personnel, and they know how you like to attack. In this game, Miami looked like the team that adjusted, while Buffalo looked static. That's not what you want to see in November. The offensive line, which had been improving earlier in the year, looked tentative. There were too many snaps where blockers were reaching instead of driving, where double teams never truly formed. Even when Cook hit the hole, contact came almost immediately. Ty Johnson rotated in for 27 snaps, nearly as many as Cook, and that alone raises eyebrows. Maybe Cook's ankle wasn't 100%, or maybe the coaching staff wanted a bigger back in pass protection against all those simulated pressures. But neither back found much room, and that imbalance in touches felt more like desperation than design. Reggie Gilliam saw 18 snaps at fullback, a clear sign that the Bills wanted to establish a physical tone. The problem was that the Dolphins met that challenge head-on. Every time Buffalo tried to run power, the edge collapsed. Every time they went zone, the backside pursuit erased the cutback lane. The Dolphins' second level was fast, clean, and smart. They stayed gap-sound, and when you combine that with the way Miami disguised pressure up front, it's no wonder the run game never settled in. And when your run game stalls, your entire offense suffers. Play action loses its bite, the linebackers stop biting on fakes, and your quarterback has to shoulder everything. That's exactly what happened. The Bills became one-dimensional, and the Dolphins teed off on it. You could almost feel Miami daring Buffalo to run, knowing they had the upper hand in the trenches. When you flip the script and look at what the defense faced, it's a reminder of how different this game could have been. Tua Tagovailoa completed 15 of 21 passes for 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. On paper, that looks like a balanced day for the Bills' defense, but context matters. Those 2 picks were basically arm punts, long throws on third down that worked out like field position plays for Miami. The timing didn't hurt the Dolphins at all. They flipped the field, pinned the Bills deep, and kept momentum. The bigger issue was the lack of pressure. Only 5 total pressures on 21 dropbacks. That's nowhere near enough to disrupt a quarterback like Tua, who thrives on rhythm and timing. Miami's offense lives on motion and spacing, and they used it masterfully here. Every time you saw a receiver in motion, it wasn't just window dressing. It forced the Bills' defense to communicate, to adjust, and too often they were steps slow. Free releases, crossing routes, play-action boots. All of it was designed to make Buffalo's secondary chase instead of dictate. Give Tua credit, too. He didn't just rely on quick throws. When the first read wasn't there, he worked through progressions and found ways to extend plays. That throw to Jalen Waddle on the deep corner after rolling left? Perfect example. It wasn't just about arm talent. It was about patience and processing. Miami's play calling gave him outlets on every snap, and the Bills' defense simply didn't have an answer. The early shot that rookie corner Max Hairston gave up to Waddle was a learning moment. He was in off-man coverage, and Waddle sold the stem beautifully. Hairston opened too soon, lost leverage, and Tua dropped it right over the top. You can live with that if it's a lesson learned, but it shows where the Bills are at right now. Young corners trying to hold up against elite speed without consistent help from the pass rush. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. The NFL community was thrown into turmoil after the unexpected announcement that the league had officially canceled the highly anticipated matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. The decision, described by insiders as unprecedented, has ignited a storm of speculation, confusion, and outright disbelief among fans, analysts, and players alike. According to several anonymous sources close to the league offices, the move followed the sudden emergence of new visual evidence suggesting that the integrity of the contest may have been compromised. The footage, reportedly captured by internal broadcast feeds and independent cameras near the field, allegedly reveals irregularities that some are already labeling as proof of manipulation. While the NFL has not released any official statement beyond the brief confirmation of the cancellation, the silence has only fueled the fire. Social media erupted within minutes of the news breaking. Hashtags like hashtag Gamegate and hashtag Bills Patriots scandal began trending almost instantly, with fans demanding transparency and calling for the footage to be made public. Some claim that the images expose illegal communication between sideline staff and an external signal source, while others insist it's all a misunderstanding being blown out of proportion. Former players and commentators have chimed in as well. One former coach, speaking on background, described the situation as something the league hasn't faced since the Spygate days, hinting that old rivalries and reputations might once again be under scrutiny. The Patriots organization, historically no stranger to controversy, has declined to comment, while the Bills representatives have expressed complete shock and disappointment over the unfolding events. The NFL's Integrity Department is rumored to be conducting an accelerated review, though the lack of transparency has done little to calm the growing storm. Fans who were eagerly awaiting what many considered a pivotal divisional clash are now left with questions and plenty of theories. Until the league releases an official explanation or the supposed footage surfaces, the story remains an open wound in an already dramatic season. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.